breaking talk. We are the leader in news and current affairs. I-95.5 FM. I-95.5 FM. The number one radio station for news, sports, and talk. I-95.5 FM, Trinidad and Tobago. The most influential name in radio. Take Two, Sunday, Edition 2, with Dominic and Roger. The best in weekend talk, the best in weekend news. Take Two, Sunday, Edition 2. With Dominic Kaliprasad and Roger Lee. Sundays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. on the most influential name in radio, I-95.5 FM.
This Sunday on episode 36 of Ion Dependency, where every life is a biography.
Among the chronic diseases which commonly affect men in Trinidad and Tobago are cancers of the prostate, colon, skin, and lungs. But you should know that a diagnosis is not a death sentence. This Sunday, Garth and Natasha welcome Darian Marcelle, who will tell how he survived a rare form of cancer and lived to tell the story.
I couldn't walk for about 2 years. In fact, I was bedridden for about a year. Couldn't even sit up. As a consequence, I suffer with nerve damage.
Join us this Sunday. Listen live on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories. We change lives. We change lives.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Iron Dependency. 3 minutes late, but we are here. Thank you, Father, for bringing us here safely. Welcome to Iron Dependency, where every life is a biography. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Garth. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
And welcome to our special guest this morning, who is in studio with us right now, Mr. Darian Marcelle. Morning, Darian.
Morning, Garth. Morning, Natasha. Storming Tom, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to all your listeners wherever they are in the world. All of where they are in the world.
Yes, welcome, Darian.
A pleasure to be here with you this Sunday morning.
Yes, and folks, you know Darian Marcelle, no stranger to 95.5. Darian Marcelle, you can hear him every afternoon on the afternoon drive with Mr. Mirage and other guest hosts, and in another capacity. But as Iron Dependency goes, we highlight biographies, and we have a very interesting one for you this morning with Mr. Darian Marcelle. Now, this is with men in mind. We are dealing with cancers in men and the different types, because we also will be hooking up with Dr. Visham Bhagaloo, and we thank the Odessa Kerr from the Ministry of Health for providing us with this oncologist, and he will, after Darian tells his story, and we will do that via a video recording that we have of Darian that we did for a TV series. So Darian will sit back and look at that, because sometimes you do an interview and there are things
see it after that.
Yes,
you don't remember.
And some of the things that you said, and some of the things that you may want to correct, and and you will hear his story, and it'll make it easier for us, and easier for him, and easier for you as well to grasp you know, Darian, thank you, Jesus. Darian's story. So, get ready for an education this morning. As you know, this is part of our forte, educating you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, on various types of substance abuse and its related ills. We will also share with you, and as we prepare our children to go back to school tomorrow, please God, we want to start from every Sunday going forward. We're going to highlight a drug that they have access to. And
today is the most popular one. The one that many people don't think is a drug.
Yes. Which is alcohol.
Big bad alcohol.
Alcohol. And what is a drug? A drug is a mood or mind altering substance. Alcohol is one of them. So we'll highlight that as a start, and as we prepare. And every Sunday we will be doing so now that school has reopened. So you, the parents, will see the long list of drugs that are now available to our children. And as someone said, Natasha, we want to congratulate the drugs for winning the war on drugs. Because we want to congratulate drugs for winning the war on drugs. Because you see,
the drugs have won.
Yes, because
human zero drugs won.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because we started fighting cocaine and marijuana. And we fought it so much that the people out there who, and we tend to think that is dumb people doing this, is very intelligent people. Most of them have their masters. Most of them know chemistry and biology as well. And so what they did, while we focusing on cocaine and marijuana, people started looking at opioids. And they came up with all different types, and then they went to brownies and cookies. And then they went back to what we call these Zessa pills, which is the ecstasy, LSD, and all of these other class A drugs. And so while we were fighting in one direction, another army came up with another way to fight us. So drugs continue to win, because now most of the people who you see running around in our country, I don't want to stray too far and let the cat out of the bag, but I can just tell you, when my generation used crack cocaine, my task, and the professionals can't tell you this, but after I take a hit of cocaine, my thought process now would be, where do I get a next hit? And I'm talking about within the next 20 seconds of ingesting that crack rock. That rock. Swear to you. The craving is so intense. So we were taken aback when a priest was tied up and robbed. And if a young man or woman will take their mother's pension, will steal their mother's jewelry, their child's jewelry, or bring a man in the house to sleep with a 16-year-old daughter to get money to buy cocaine, you should understand craving and how intense it is, and nothing is sacred. So,
can I just interject? I mean, I agree with you that drugs have won the war, but I think we haven't, because human beings want to alter their mood or their behavior. That's part of who we are as human beings. I think where we have failed is that we have not addressed the internal issues, the mental health issues that cause people to use drugs. And on top of that, we have criminalized the use of these drugs, adding further, harm and trauma and stigma onto the fact that human beings use drugs. So I think we have to change our perspective about the people who use drugs. I mean, there's a whole movement about not calling people addicts, but persons who use drugs or persons who have a drug use disorder, because they're people at the end of the day. They're not, they shouldn't be stigmatized as, fallen or irredeemable. So I agree with you, the drugs win any war, but the human beings haven't been dealing with our propensity to use, and criminalizing us for criminalizing people for using drugs is where we're failing.
And remember, folks, when school reopens, there are adults who will give children drugs to go to school to sell.
Yes.
Especially those who got hit by the pandemic, they're not working. They have another way to make money, which is to give their child all the pusher on the block give a child drugs to go to school to sell.
Yep.
And when you're looking for that joint, sometimes it could be in a pill. When you see a bottle of cough syrup, there's something else to go with that, but you just see in the cough syrup.
Yep.
We'll discuss that as we go forward in this month here of September. But folks, this morning the focus is on Mr. Darian Marcelle, who is patiently waiting, sitting with us here. We'll have a nice conversation with him this morning, and you will be informed about his journey. After this break, we will go to that. Right, Darian?
Certainly.
Thank you for joining us again. So, folks, let's take this break. And remember, you can join us on Ion Dependency's Facebook page. That is EYEON Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel of the same name. Welcome to those of you who listen to us on I-95.5 FM. We'll be back.
Don't become a headline. Doing construction, picking fruit or trimming trees? Keep bamboo rods, ladders, scaffolding, roof beams, oversized material of any type, and body parts at least 15 feet from electricity poles and lines. Before doing any type of work close to overhead lines or to the point of connection to your home, and before digging where there are underground lines, contact T&Tech for a temporary disconnection so you can work safely. T&Tech, the power to make it work.
Finally, Welcome Relief comes in the form of a scientific-based program that shows us how to manage through the tough, current challenges. Called Habitalism. It features best-selling author on positivity and happiness, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, integrated with the award-winning Intangence methodology of Ross. Visit habitalism.me to register now for this free life-transforming program endorsed by the United Nations established University for Peace. Gifted by Guardian Group. Live easy.
Cappy, talk to you now, boy. Got a small work for you to do. You make a quick 10 G's. What you gonna do for me? 10 G's? Where's that how I do there, boy? What you doing? Taking your boat, run up the islands, pick up some people and then bring them back here for me. That's all you have to do.
That's sounding like human trafficking, boy. That's a serious crime. I can't make that.
Trafficking in human beings is a serious violation of a person's human rights. It violates a person's right to freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and freedom of identity. It is a heinous crime which affects local, regional, and international peace and security. A victim of human trafficking is subjected to many types of abuse. The crime destroys a person's dignity and self-worth. Victims often feel hopeless, are suicidal, and are stigmatized in their communities. Child victims are deprived of their rights to education, play, and social interactions. They're essentially robbed of their childhood, and that can never be regained once those years have passed. If we do little or nothing to fight against human trafficking in our country, we can face economic sanctions from international agencies and partners. Our country will be losing money. Doing little or nothing to fight against human trafficking will tarnish our country's international image and, most of all, the value we place on human life. Human trafficking is no respecter of persons. Anyone can be a victim. So let us all strive to safeguard human life and dignity in Trinidad and Tobago.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Ion Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Ion Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Hey, Olia, I look into head home, you know. Who riding with me?
What? Oh gosh, you could mash up a line, my boy.
Yeah, cause he's stale, eh? We coming, bro.
But first, one for the road. Nah, I real good, my brother. I have to drive all the home. And besides, it's a police on the road.
You're a soft man, or what? Boy, throw back the drink, eh?
Well, I'm told you, boy, I am the designated driver and I must be responsible. So let's rest me without talk now. Let we go.
Okay, now, boss. Okay, we coming.
Drinking and driving can have devastating consequences. Think before you drink. A message from Eye on Dependency.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and we are joined in studio by Darian Marcelle, who has a story to tell, but you will hear him in the flesh as he appeared on our TV series, Eye on Dependency TV, Eye on Health, which was released last year. And his episode was episode 5, and we were talking about various health issues across the board, and his episode focused on cancers in men. Now, he has had, you're in remission, right?
I don't know what that word is. Remission, I don't.
Has
I don't know what that word is.
a very
You don't
rare,
know that word?
No.
a rare
You'll tell us why
form
later.
of cancer. Yes. So you will hear all about how he discovered his illness and how his journey to recovery and to wellness.
And we have online, excuse me, before we go to the video, we have online Dr. Visham Bhagaloo, and you'll hear more about him after we run this feature. But just to make sure that he's sharing us. Good morning, Dr. Bhagaloo.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me on the program. I'm hearing you guys loud and clear. Are you guys hearing me?
Right. Yes, we're hearing you. And of course, thank you. And I know you'll be looking on. I know you between rounds and so on. Doctor is working again today, but he decided
on
to
call.
Yes, he gave us a few minutes of his time.
All
So
right.
let's go to now this feature with Darian Marcelle and describing his journey as we interviewed him on the Eye on Health series. You, all men out there, you may identify with something that will be said here this morning. So without further ado, let's go to that feature.
I suffer with demyelinating neuropathy. And what that is nerve damage. And your nerves end in your fingers and your toes. So my feet are like if they're in hot coals, a coal pot in hot coals, 24/7. That will never stop.
Welcome to Eye on Dependency TV,
reality TV at its best.
where every life is a biography.
I am Garth Sinclair.
And I'm Natasha Nunez. And today on Eye on Dependency, we explore the topic of cancer, specifically those that affect men. And we speak with a man who was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer.
We will also speak with an expert from the Ministry of Health about the prevalence of prostate cancer, the urgent need for early screening, as well as the odds of survival if the disease is not caught early.
I survived a cancer called Poems. It's a very rare cancer. I was diagnosed in 2006. Started seeing symptoms in 2003. Poems is really an acronym for plasma, endocrine system, the organs, the monologal band, and skin. Yeah, it's total. So I was diagnosed. Good news, I was diagnosed in Trinidad by a very good gentleman, Dr. Keith Alium. That was confirmed in the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, where I go every year since then for care, because while I have a good team of doctors in Trinidad, because of the small population, they're not exposed to this cancer called Poems, and therefore my treatment protocols had to be designed at the Poems. The good news is that my doctors here were able to execute like the chemotherapy, the radiation, and the care Of course, there's a whole lot of complications that go with that. Ultimately, one of the options for care is bone marrow transplant, but I opted not to do that first and do chemo. It was done in San Grande Hospital by my doctors here, Dr. Capi Capelli and so on, but the protocols were designed by the Mayo and we were able to execute. We have some really good doctors here. So poems, very debilitating, very challenging, but I was able to survive. It took a long time to diagnose. As I said, my first sign of it was in 2003. Between 2003 and 2005, there were many situations, and I didn't hesitate to investigate all of them. But the one that really brought us to that space is when I was misdiagnosed with diabetes. I almost ended up in a diabetic coma. Because the doctors, as I said, not familiar. Hospitalized quite a few times, but when we put together all the evidence, Dr. Aliong determined that it was poems. And although his colleagues who were part of my team, who did not agree, but because of the respect they had for Dr. Aliong, they went along. Now they could not only diagnose but treat. But what they had to do for a period of time is to manage, and they did that quite well. I had the good fortune of having family members and doctors abroad who, after the last critical situation, because I did my radiation first at St. James, where I became stable and so on after that. But then in 2006, but then I had another attack Christmas Eve of 2008, which was extremely critical. And that is when the decision was made to source outside help, because what they were able to do is to manage and contain. But after 2009, discovering that it was poems, what was required then, because of how rare the cancer was, we had to get now foreign help. And at the Mayo, where the experts are with poems, so I now go to Mayo every year. I have to go every year for checkups, and so far so good. I couldn't walk for about 2 years. In fact, I was bedridden for about a year. Couldn't even sit up. The damage remains. As a consequence, I suffer with demyelinating neuropathy. What that is nerve damage. And your nerves end in your fingers and your toes. So my feet are like if they're in hot coals, a cold pot with hot coals, 24/7. That will ever stop. Up to today. It damaged some nerves and muscles in my legs. So if you notice my stand, I have a gait. I can't run anymore. I walk differently now, right? Which has this debilitating effect over time. Meaning, I have to go for regular massages to realign the body. Never so often. Sometimes, don't pay too much attention to those things. But I've come to live with it. I'm alive and well. The shelf life, the doctors tell you, is 5 years. Yeah. But do always listen. There's some things you don't pay attention to, the doctors don't tell you. You live your life, right? So I've been the signs of cancer 2003 in 2019, right? So forget the shelf life. It's about you taking charge of you. Yeah. What I've found, because since then I have encountered many people who have cancer, and I've tried to help. The greatest enemy is your mind. Stress, fear. Don't be. Science have gone such a long way that cancer is no longer a death sentence. Now we have to die by something. We don't know when and how, but cancer itself is no longer a death sentence. Unlike many other lifestyle diseases, We just, as men, we must be in tune with our body. And we must know when something is wrong. Don't be our own doctors. Go have a doctor, have your personal doctor, and go and check your body. You know, it's strange enough, I tell men, we spend so much attention on the car. When we hear something wrong with the car, we go by the mechanic. We like our homes, and when we see something wrong with the window, we bring in somebody. Your body just like that, you treat your body like that. You know, when something is wrong, go and check. And have a doctor, a good doctor. Have one. At least every 6 months, go to a doctor. When you pass 40, more important, see a doctor. Have one. You know, and let's modify our lifestyles. You know, I respect the fact that many of us are not athletic and into the gym and all of that and time. Take a walk. Change your lifestyle. So instead of the elevator, walk the steps. Instead of driving to the corner, walk and come back. You know, there are things that you can do differently in your life. Adapt. You know, adapt. Prostate cancer is a real thing in men. Women have breast cancer and cervical cancer. Men have prostate cancer. But I'll tell you this, there's one common denominator: stress, lifestyle. And it's not that people who feel when they relax and they don't have a stressful life don't get cancer, but it is fueled more by stressful lifestyle and by fear. So, you know, I remember when I was diagnosed, when I was told that I had cancer, I was in Mount Hope Hospital lying down the day for my birthday. And when my wife came with the pathology report and said I have cancer, because for a long time we didn't know what it was. So now you know what the enemy is. You know how to gather your forces. You know what to target and how to treat it. Being diagnosed with cancer in 2019, I want to repeat, it's not a death sentence.
Your first line of defense is the immune system of your body. Whenever a foreign body comes in like a virus, your own body will make antibodies to try and attack and shut that virus down. That's the first thing that happens. So the stronger your immune system is, the better. That's the whole premise on which vaccines are done. It introduces something into your body that will cause your immune system to generate those antibodies that will recognize a virus if it comes into your body.
FM. You want to see us? You're live on the Ion Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's EYE on Dependency and Facebook and YouTube. We are in studio with Mr. Darian Marcelle. This morning we shifting gears a bit so that we can discuss our health. And you know, Darian is a very strong proponent on that. And after we finish with this feature, we will come. He's in studio with us, so we will continue the journey with him, and then we will speak with Dr. Visham Bhagaloo, who will join us via video. So let's go back to the feature.
CARICOM in 2012, and the report going to CARICOM told us that the dynamics of lifestyle diseases in the region has changed tremendously, and so with cancer. Long time, old people just get breast cancer and cervical cancer. Now young women are getting cervical cancer and breast cancer and so on. So we need to be mindful. Men gotta shake the macho egotistical issues that we carry, and have some me time. Have some me time. Take care of you. You have a family, you have your own goals and objectives in life. For you to achieve those, you need to be healthy, you need to be alive. So, see a doctor. Have a team of doctors. Yeah, you need to. You need to have a good general practitioner. And for men over 40, find a urologist that you're comfortable with. See your urologist based on what he considered to be a proper, appropriate timeline, say to see him. Check yourself, Rest is important. And how we eat. But guess what? In all of that, if we don't rest our bodies and our minds, make room for all kind of things. Don't be too busy running down the money and everything else. We need to put our schedules in our space, especially as we get older, so that we get rest, we eat better, we relax mentally and physically. But in spite of all of that, see a doctor, check yourself, and make sure that you're healthy. Make sure that you're healthy. I tell people, one of the most expensive things I've ever come. If you feel a mortgage is expensive, try paying for medical care. And in Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately, and not only Trinidad and Tobago, healthcare is expensive. And you asked me about the healthcare services in Trinidad. As I was saying to you, we have a lot of good doctors, but because they're not as exposed to the wide-ranging things on a regular basis, it is difficult for them to diagnose. But I found that once they have their finger on the pulse, they do a good job. We are now changing out the old Jurassic machines we had in terms of radiation treatments. I think that our chemotherapy protocols are quite good. One of the things we need to do better is aftercare in Trinidad and Tobago, across the board, aftercare. But guess what? You can't leave your aftercare to the hospital. You need to do you. And I tell people, my experience, when you're sick and you're down for the count, manage your space. I don't have people come to the door who come in and me crying and sorry and Darian boy and crying and you can't come to see me. With all due respect, family, friend, whoever, I want a positive space. And you need time to recover mentally and physically. So manage your space. A lot of people vex because you ain't letting them come and take. If you have people coming to your door 24, when are you going to rest? When are you going to recover? So I learned that lesson. Manage your space, have a positive mindset. This is your body. And therefore, once you go in front of a doctor, you in charge. He is a service, he or she is but a service provider. Ask all your questions and have a contact that when you have any other concerns, you can email and get your questions answered, because it can be debilitating. If you have a concern and it's bothering you, and you have to wait until the next time you see the doctor, and you have to pay to see him to ask a question. We need to change that in Trinidad and Tobago. First, one of the things important to change. They are service providers. Some see themselves as God. We mustn't see them that way. They had about a few weeks ago a program just for men. I think it was an excellent initiative, and I hope that all the regions do the same thing. And I hope that men take the opportunity to go to them. And if you don't get to do that, see about you. Make time. And I'm not talking about the professionals and the executives and so on. The plumber, the mason, the carpenter, the taxi driver, the maxi taxi driver, all men, take care of you. Take care of you. You're taking care of your family, take care of you so that you'll be there for them.
We're now closer than ever before. Yet it took social distancing to get us there. We're now more aware of how interconnected we all are. Yet it took a virus to teach us what was always obvious. We're more health conscious of ourselves and the environment than ever. Yet, it took a global pandemic to create such consciousness. We're wiser now about the planet we share together. Yet we just can't afford another lesson on how we need to live this life better. One way, one world. Live easy with Guardian Group.
If we look over the past 2 or 3 decades, we realize that men and women in Trinidad have been living longer. So now in 2018, if you're a man in Trinidad, you probably, in 2018 you would have expected to live to about 70 years. Women doing much better, 76 years. And it took that about a decade or 2 before you living, 60 years would have been a big thing, huh? So now people are living, they're getting older. And what we know is that as we get older, we of course, new diseases and diseases become a lot more prevalent. And one of those diseases is actually cancer. So right now in Trinidad, we know that cardiovascular disease and stroke are the leading cause of death in Trinidad. And cancer is just behind diabetes and cardiovascular disease. We expect probably in the next 5 to 10 years that cancer will overtake diabetes and heart disease as the leading cause of death as we begin to be able to treat diabetes and all the other risk factors associated with heart disease. So as a whole, the incidence of cancer is actually increasing. And when we look at males, so both males and females get cancer. And it's actually quite interesting, except for the gynecological cancers. Men could get any cancer that women get. Sometimes we forget that men could get breast cancer too. So that's very important to always remember. But prostate cancer, as you said, is actually the most common cancer amongst men. So prostate cancer is the most common, and it probably accounts for about 1 in 5 of all cancers and about 1/3 of all deaths related to cancers in males. The other common cancers that we see in males would be lung cancer, colorectal cancer, we get pancreatic cancer. So those are about the leading causes, and we have all the other cancers that you could get. So prostate cancer in itself is really a big problem that we have. And in the Caribbean, and Trinidad being part of it, we know that prostate cancer is actually a bit more aggressive than we would probably see in the other populations. So for example, if you were to look at a lot of the data has come out of North America, so they always look at what they call the Afro-Caribbean population. And we know that the prostate cancer is a lot more aggressive in our population than we would see in some of the others. We want to pick something up before it becomes symptomatic. And that's the most important thing. So symptomatic means that you start having symptoms. So you go to the doctor because you have problems with your urine, or you're having, say, something like back pain, different things like that, problems with erectile dysfunction. So you go in when you're perfectly fine, when you're normal. So you go in for your regular visit. So that's what screening means. And screening for prostate cancer really involves 2 things. It involves a blood test called a PSA and a rectal exam using the finger. So it's called a digital rectal exam. And we usually recommend, so there are no definite guidelines in Trinidad, and the guidelines vary from place to place. But we usually say by the age of 50, most men should be having their annual PSA and rectal exam. And what is important is that we want to, if it is that we can pick a cancer, we want to pick it up before it has gone very far, before it actually has caused symptoms. Because the earlier we can pick something up, the earlier we can treat it and the better the outcome. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of controversy over PSA screening. Because people always look at the benefit of PSA screening. because we say that a lot of times maybe we probably are picking up so many cancers now that we probably may be over treating some people, because some people may die from something else and may not die from the cancer. So there's a lot of controversy, but very generally, we usually would say by the age of 50. Now, if you have a family history, that means you're in a higher risk group, you should probably start screening a little bit earlier than 50. But really what we're doing is we're using a simple test, which is a blood test. So when you go to your doctor after the age of 50, you should really be going also, to check your weight and get your cholesterol, your diabetes checked. And when your doctor examines you, one of the things the doctor will do is a rectal exam. If the doctor finds that there's something abnormal on the prostate, as a conversation we would have had before, then you would want to then go and investigate to see if there's something that is abnormal in the prostate. So survival depends on what we call stage of prostate. If it's a prostate cancer, it depends on the stage. And literally, the more advanced your stage is, it means the chance for survival, the chance for cure becomes less, right? So the earlier you pick something up, you could have a curative potential, close to, maybe 90%. And then as the stage becomes more advanced, it means that the chance that we would be able to get the cancer under control and in remission may become less than that. One thing is important to note, sometimes people look at the percentages and they go like, oh gosh, because people go and they Google, right? Everybody goes on Google and then they see something called the 5-year survival. So they think, okay, I'm only going to live till 5 years. That doesn't mean, all it means is that it just looks at how many people with the cancer are alive at 5 years.
Okay.
So it means that even if you did get something a little bit later, it still means that you could have a good chance, you could still have a chance for survival. What the test involves, it involves the doctor actually using his finger, or her finger, and actually feeling the prostate. Now, it's maybe a little uncomfortable, but it's usually done once a year, and by most stretch of an imagination, most people will probably not have a significant issue with it. Now I know that sometimes what people hear about is they hear about what happens after that examination if there's something wrong. So
Right.
people hear about where they have to put like the ultrasound probe inside the rectum in order to be able to check the prostate and so. So that's usually a follow-on test if we've picked up that there's something abnormal.
Okay.
Right? So it means therefore that very simply, with your blood test, and you could always think about it, you could do your PSA blood test the same time if it's just your regular screening when you're checking for your blood sugar and your cholesterol. So it could just be one set of blood that you're taking at the same time. And while the doctor is examining, it takes no more than less than a minute in order to be able to check and see that everything is okay. So
the sex trafficking is a serious thing, boy.
Sex trafficking? I thought it was only human trafficking it have.
But what do you mean?
No serious thing, boy. Where you get that from? I know about human trafficking, not about sex trafficking.
So how can you spot and identify perpetrators and children who are victims of trafficking? Many victims who are children do not look like under 18 years old. Child victims often move escorted around alone or in small groups. They also live in shared and even packed rooms and have very little clothing and belongings. Child victims are often seen with adults who are not their parents, their relatives, or their caregivers. Migrant children are often unaccompanied and separated from their parents. Child victims are often engaged in work that is not suitable for children. They are often deprived of their freedom to go to school, to play, and to enjoy being a child. Perpetrators have unexplained sources of income and possessions. They are businessmen and businesswomen running legitimate and illegitimate businesses. Perpetrators may appear to be the victim's friend, boyfriend, close relative, or employer.
We are the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Don't become a headline. Doing construction, picking fruit or trimming trees? Keep bamboo rods, ladders, scaffolding, roof beams, oversized material of any type, and body parts at least 15 feet from electricity poles and lines. Before doing any type of work close to overhead lines or to the point of connection to your home, and before digging where there are underground lines, contact T&Tech for a temporary disconnection so you can work safely. T&Tech, the power to make it work.
Finally, Welcome Relief comes in the form of a scientific-based program that shows us how to manage through the tough, current challenges. Called Habitalism. It features best-selling author on positivity and happiness, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, integrated with the award-winning Intangents methodology of Ross. Visit habitalism.me to register now for this free life-transforming program endorsed by the United Nations established University for Peace. Gifted by Guardian Group. Live easy.
Oh gosh, it's really making hot today, boy.
Mommy, what you drinking?
I'm trying to cool down in this heat. Beer is not for you though. Only adults can have alcohol.
But Mommy, alcohol is not for you either. Pregnant women not supposed to drink alcohol.
Where you hear that?
Mr. Gart from Dependency was telling us in school about fetal alcohol syndrome. That's what babies get when mommies drink while they're pregnant. I don't want a brother or sister like that, Mommy.
Okay, you're right. I'll go drink water instead because I want this baby to be a happy, healthy child just like you.
Thank you, Mommy.
Drinking while pregnant can have devastating consequences. Think before you drink. A message from Eye on Dependency.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you very much, folks, for staying with us. You're listening to Dependency, and we have a very educational program for you as always this morning, but we're dealing with men's health. And I mean, off mic, Natasha, Darian, and I were having a discussion about menopause and andropause, and folks, I have to prepare myself for another zone,
not only
another
that,
chapter.
you know, as it's one of the things that we have, as Darian said in the piece, that one of the things we have to consider as we age.
Yeah.
Some of the things, the ailments that will befall us, through no fault of our own. It's just, hormones and other things. And cancer, of course, is one of those things that affects people at any age, but particularly in the advanced years.
So what you just saw was Darian Marcelle as he appeared on Dependency TV and telling his story and his journey as he survived this rare form of cancer poems. And we have Dr. Visham Bhagaloo standing by to interject and tell us. Natasha will share his biography for you in a minute. And but Darian, how has it been now? We heard the journey, and folks, you can join us on Dependency's Facebook page or YouTube channel. That's EYEON Dependency. Darian, you saw it. I know you remembered this interview, but how has things been since then?
Normal, same way. Nothing changed from the 19th to now.
As I was asking you off air before we started, are you in remission, or how does it work with that form of cancer?
And you said you don't deal with that.
I don't use that term remission. Okay. The doctors will probably use that. I don't associate with that. Okay. Because you hear people talk about, well, I come out of remission or whatever. I don't know nothing about that. That's a term I don't associate with, right? That's just me, right? It sounds like a term associated with cancer, and if it's not showing itself in remission and is a part of no. My objective was always to recover, right? Recovery may not always bring you back to the normal place that you thought you were, but you're alive and well. And well here is a state of mind, right? Because you may have collateral damage from whatever you encounter you had with cancer. But what is critical is that you're alive and you're well, and it's a work in progress to stay well. Yeah. This is not something you could just abandon and say, well, yeah, all right, that's it. No, it's a continuous working process. There was a video you showed earlier with a doctor talking about viruses and the vaccine and the immune system and how important it is to manage and ensure that your immune system is strong. And when she talk about viruses, it also speaks to the issue of other issues, other health issues, lifestyle diseases, as the case might be, whether you're suffering hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular issues. Your body has the capacity to regenerate and so on. But you have to help the body by keeping it alkaline and keeping your immune system strong and so on. So I don't have to tell you what you have to do. Make sure you get in all your vitamins and so on. Exercise is important. It's difficult for some of us, but do that and so on. So when you ask me how it has been, I live one day at a time, and I'm always grateful when I open my eyes in the morning and I am here. Right, because and not only that, I am good. I'm very good. I'm excellent. There are those who don't have the quality of life. You're sick, and you're bedridden, or you're in this and that and the other. There are things that you have to be thankful for first. See the glass half full, and not half empty. All right. I have my challenges like everybody else. But you don't go wrong talking about that. You don't take that a priority. That can't trump the fact that you're alive and there are good things happening with you.
Now, how did the family, when you first found out, first of all, let's go there. What prompted you, or what made you realize that something was wrong? That first thing that men who are listening right now may be seeing the same thing and ignoring it, and then the doctor, of course, we have here, Dr. Visham, will enhance on it. But what was that first thing?
2003. I was helping my friend Wendell Stephen in his election campaign. So we had a walkabout. But by the time we came back, at that time I played National League windball cricket, football. Every evening I in the sand track running and looking for a sweat. That was my life. I always have kit in my car. And fitness was important to me. I always running about. This fella you see here. This wasn't you. No, this is not me.
It's another Darian.
This is penicillin.
Okay.
Steroids is what this is. It's to cause this. Yeah. And when we came back, I noticed my knee, my left knee swollen. And it was painful. So I went to him and iced it and rest it and so on, and it continued to be. So I went to a doctor, I won't call his name, and he saw it and he gave my injections, steroids. He told me in about 4 weeks I'll be all right. But after 4 months I wasn't all right, and I started to get hurt to bunker because I want to exercise, I want to thing, and I started to force myself to exercise, and so it was painful. And then I decided, no, let me do some checking. I went and I did an executive medical at Mount Hope, and that came out all right. I went and I did the stress test and everything. It was all right. But while I'm doing all of those things, I'm seeing doctors and so on, my health is deteriorating. And that is only because, not that the doctors didn't do their work, that was only because they were checking the symptoms that I presented. And the cancer is a rare cancer. And they're not exposed to it in Trinidad. And therefore, that's not in the head. But I started to slow down. I can't run, I can't walk, I couldn't climb steps. It was tedious. And so on. And by 2006, I noticed that I am having extreme discomfort in my legs, and they started to feel like if they were cast in concrete. literally cast in concrete. I just not as mobile and I'm not talking about normal casual walking. Seeing doctors, and I mean, I have to tell you that I thought that they did the best they could. There were some that I discovered that were just sending the phone along further, back and forth. But that is an experience in itself that you need to pay attention to. And then you came into contact with the right doctors. I ended up hospitalized. And being hospitalized, then the first set of investigations took place. And quite by accident, I mean, my doctor, my sugar level, I think I mentioned to you, I almost ended up in a diabetic coma. But because I was placed on penicillin sent up my blood sugar. So that's one of the issues with it, right? But they didn't assess that. They didn't understand that. They didn't see it as that at the time. And my sugar levels was extremely high and was hospitalized. And while I was hospitalized, communication is something else, right? So my wife would normally come and meet with the doctor by my bed, and we will talk. And she said, but remember you went and do an x-ray? And there was something you pointed out that you looked at and you found that was strange, and you were wondering if that was the quality of the picture or if that was a lesion. I say, yeah, boy. Doctor said, let me see that now. Please, I want to see it. So I sent home for it. They came the next day, and I handed it to the doctor. Keeping your records is important, people. Keeping your records and presenting your doctors with it, it helps a great deal. Yep. And when he saw it, he looked up at it in the room. He said, Darian, I'll get to you later. Because my son brought it. I went. And he came back. He said, I want to investigate that lesion. And they took me to surgery. And
That lesion was in your knee?
No, it was in my hip, my pelvic.
Pelvis, okay.
That knee thing was the nerves it was in my right helium, right? So it was growing over the nerves and the blood vessels, creating other problems down the road. Yeah. So they went in with like a 5-cent piece, went into the helium, took out some and they biopsied it. And the good news is that they discovered that it was cancer. I celebrated.
Because at least you know what it is.
Oh, you know what the enemy is. Yes. At that time I was written, Yes. But I celebrated. Once you know who the enemy is, you know who we are fighting.
Yes, right. Yes.
The only thing is, I didn't know which army we were fighting. All I know is it was cancer. And the doctors here weren't able to properly diagnose what type of cancer because it was rare. But there's this great doctor, as I pointed out, Dr. Kitalia. Gem of a gentleman. Went to see him. And that's me taking that own initiative because I'm seeing my other doctors and they're doing the best that they could in maintenance. And he, after 2.5 hours, going through all my files, talking to me, thorough and everything, he said, this is poems, a rare cancer. And he explained it. My other doctors says they have the greatest regard for this gentleman. They don't understand it. They're not necessarily agreeing, but they will go along with his diagnosis. And they did that. But, so I did radiation. Again, I met some fantastic doctors. Dr. Anisa Ahmad, Kavi Kapildev, Dr. Telemark was my GP, Dr. Shrisavar. I had a team of doctors. And when I did radiation in 2006, and I was back out in 2007, trotting along because I couldn't walk, was not as mobile, and I improved over time. I started to improve and started to walk with a stick, but you had to push yourself because my doctor's position was that you should operate at a wheelchair. I'm not doing no wheelchair thing. Even when I had to travel, that's the only time I'll go in a wheelchair. When I have to travel, and if I'm in hospital, then the hospital have the protocols.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't care if it take me an hour to reach where I go in, and sometimes I'm sweating like a pot cover. but walking with my stick. But I got a relapse in 2008. I baked my ham Christmas evening, and I started feel a pain in my shoulder. I just thought it was, thing, and
Just a little sore. Something.
yeah, and it dung inside it and it burned and it just deteriorated in the night. And unfortunately, Christmas morning it became unbearable. I went to the hospital. Again, know yourself and know your doctors, and these institutions. I went to this private hospital, which I would name and call, which was not the hospital that I would normally go to but I couldn't find my doctor. It was Christmas Day.
Yes, right.
But this was urgent, so I went. And I am telling him, the doctor, that what I am diagnosed with and he decide he don't want to hear what I am saying. And he want to start to do this and this. And I said, then my wife, I said, let us go home, please.
From here.
He said, but you can't go, you have to. I said, hold on, don't tell me I can't go. Let me discharge myself. I did that and I went home. And as fate would have it, my doctor somewhere in the country, in the bush, spending the Christmas relaxing. Morning, Dr. Suraj Singh, Professor Suraj Singh, Tilak Singh, Suraj Tilak. He find me, he called me. Say, I see you trying to reach me. I say, yeah. I say, tomorrow morning, hospital. Again, hospitalized there for about a week or two. That was dread. Dread.
What were you feeling?
Everything.
The body just in pain?
Well, not only in pain. Pain will be, if it was pain, I deal with pain very well. My pancreas was in a mess. My heart, lungs, kidneys, everything was. What wasn't sodden was busted. What wasn't busted was filled liquid. It was in my eyes. I don't know what it's called. It's called jaundice.
Yeah.
Eyes yellow.
Yes.
It was crazy.
Darian, you are a walking miracle?
We all are, brother. The fact that we born and alive is, remember when sperm is millions of sperm, and the one that reach and fertilize the egg is what we
well, you are the fastest one. But the thing is, you from what you describing us here this morning, and I mean, I'm no Dr. Visham listening, and if you're just joining us, folks, he will join us in a while and give his take on what you just heard. But you're listening to Dependency, and we have Darian Marcelle in with us this morning, telling us a very interesting story. Darian, so how did how long did you stay there?
I was there for, as I said, 2 weeks. I came out, thank God, all last night and went home. I ended up also, there was a plasma treatment that I needed, because when I was first diagnosed in 2006-07, I went to University of Miami, the hospital there, and they were trying to diagnose me as well. They confirmed Dr. Al Young's prognosis. But I didn't stay there long enough. I had to come back home. But the doctor recommended a treatment. So I told one of my doctors, and he told me it will cost me $30,000 to do it. And he will do it for me privately. I said, well, no. So I went to Mount Hope.
Okay.
With my records. They warded me. And the treatment was there. And would you believe, while I am there, I ended up on the ward that same doctor was in charge of. He never came to see me.
Oh, Lord.
The next morning, the nurse said, the nurse said, your doctor is coming. He's coming down, seeing patients, and he will see you. And so on, and they bring the records. He never came.
Like the one who charged it?
He never came.
Wow.
A younger doctor came the next day, and he said, well, how come you're here? I mean, how come I here sick? He said, I said, boss, what is the problem? Boy, yeah. I said, why didn't doctor come? He said, Mr. Marcelle, I don't want to go through that. I'm reading your records here, and this treatment, we can start it tomorrow.
Free of charge in the public health.
Free of charge at Mount Hope. And but the doctor never came. When he came, the day was supposed to be released, and he wanted to put me on the front of his, who came and told my wife that they would send me for treatment somewhere in Venezuela. To treat as well. Were you going on treat?
But the moral of this part of the story, I think, for me, is that you have to be able to articulate what you are feeling and demand of your doctors, who is supposed to be serving you, as you mentioned in the piece, that what you want, because it's your body, and they ought not to, prescribe anything to you that you feel is not going to help you to heal.
That is correct, but I like to summarize it this way. Doctors are not gods. Don't see them as gods. They are human beings who are trained in a particular discipline, right? And we need to see them for our welfare and so on.
Yes.
And therefore, you don't put your lives in their hands. They provide you with information and so on. And, not all of us are. Sometimes you're ill and you can't articulate. Sometimes you can't tell. I went nowhere without my wife. Right? And she was asking every question in the book and taking notes.
Yes.
Because there are some doctors who don't like you to ask them questions.
No. If you have a doctor and not prepared to answer your question, he's not good for you. Leave him alone. That's not your friend. That's not your doctor. He's not worthy of a single cent. Even in the public service. Don't go. Change him, because this is your life. You could go carry a car by a mechanic, and you asking the mechanic wrong with your car, and you paying your money, and he's not telling you there's something wrong with that. And therefore, if you could do that for your car, who's you?
Right.
No, your doctors must be able to answer all your questions. I met one or two who wasn't prepared to do that, and I just stopped seeing them. Don't play that. No. And somebody in Macon reminds of what fear means. And run and face everything and right. Listen, one of your greatest enemies in life is stress. And then there are two types of stress everybody's talk, right? Either them in too much of it is not healthy for you, right? And fear. I mean, there are people who have all kinds of fears, and I can't start to understand it, so I'm not going to judge and adjudicate on anybody. But I can tell you they are enemies to your well-being. Enemies to your well-being. Let me just say this part.
Yes.
This is important. Whether you die, and this is not related to cancer, this is related to illness, whatever the illness is. Your body is fighting this foreign thing that is in your system. Whatever it is, cardiovascular arrest, whatever, diabetes, whatever. Your body is fighting it. Your body has the capacity to fight it. Sometimes your body needs assistance, that's why you take medication. But whatever your illness is putting a stress on the body, and it may affect other organs or other systems in your body. So you might have cancer, but you fighting up, you're stressed, and the burden in your body is that affects your heart or something.
Or your stomach.
You need to take care of you. Yeah. So while you're seeing your oncologist, great, and your hematologist, make sure you have your GP and or your internal medicine person, neurologist. It's important to have a team to take care of all of you. And you see your mental well-being,
paramount.
You can see all of them, they're the greatest thing. If you're not mentally strong and you're not relaxed, and so on, you put in more pressure on your doctor, and all that money you're paying, all time you're wasting, it will have no value to you.
No. All right, we'll go to that, and Natasha will share Dr. Visham Bhagaloo's bio with us before we introduce him, so you'll know who we're speaking with in 1 minute. But you said something there, and I'm looking at people who really cannot afford, and we have to now guide them to the place that they can go to, because you talk about a team of doctors. There are people who cannot afford one doctor, and that too can be that could add to part of the stress.
Of course, but I will tell you, there are very good. First of all, this society is twisted badly. All them private doctors you seen, they operate in the hospital.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And many times, and I'm not afraid to say it, I've experienced it. Darian has experienced it, and I've seen other people. They will tell you, or they will treat you in a kind of way that you have to sit down and tell them, they will tell you, well, come to see me in my practice. That is wrong. Because the state is paying them lots of money to see them in the hospital, right?
Right.
Now, the hospital system, our system not people just talk about this health system. This health system, you go around the world, but I can tell you, this health system real good. We have excellent doctors. We have fantastic nurses and care. Time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. But in the health sector in Trinidad and Tobago, you can make it work for you. You ought to make it work for you.
Let's hear from Dr. Natasha.
Dr. Visham Bhagaloo. He's a clinical oncologist who's currently assigned to the San Fernando General Hospital. He acquired his undergraduate qualifications at the University of the West Indies, where he has a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery. He then went on to attain his postgraduate qualifications at the University of Cape Town, where he received a fellowship from the College of Radiation Oncologists of South Africa, in addition to a master's in oncology. Dr. Bhagaloo is also a recipient of a national scholarship and the Poet Scholarship of the University of Cape Town, where he was awarded the opportunity to further his studies in oncology at Harvard University. He is passionate about an integrated oncology approach with a seamless transition from screening to detection to treatment. While Dr. Bhagaloo treats all types of cancer, his particular interests include breast, prostate, and gastrointestinal cancers. And we welcome Dr. Bhagaloo. Thank you for your patience. We are anxious to hear your take on what you've heard and just in general, what is the state of our population when it comes to these cancers that you're so passionate about?
So again, so good morning to everyone. Good morning to your listeners. It's my pleasure to be here. And
Dr.
again,
Bhagaloo, are you with us? We're not hearing you.
Hello?
Yes,
right.
hearing you now.
All right. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to share the information. And thank you very much for having me on the program.
You're welcome.
I've been listening to the comments, and I agree wholeheartedly with a lot of them. I will try my best to go through what I can remember and address them. I agree wholeheartedly that at no point in time should a physician ever suggest or insinuate visiting him or her in a private capacity. That is an absolute no-no. In the public system, exactly like you said, there are lots of strengths and weaknesses, but our strengths are a lot more than people can really understand. From our point of view, basically every single facility or option that is available in a private capacity is available in our hospitals. Radiation is available in St. James. I can speak for oncology. Radiation is available at the National Radiotherapy Center, now CCTT. Chemotherapy is available in San Fernando, San Grande, and St. James. Like you described, I am very, very passionate about a patient-doctor relationship. If you do not feel comfortable with a physician, it is your right to ask for a different physician. I do not believe you need to go to a private facility to get better treatment. And rightfully, like was described, a lot of who you see in private, they also have interest in public. And it's our responsibility as physicians to respect, to advise, and to assist in any way we can. This is no longer a dictatorship type medical system. It's a system where we provide information and with our patients determine the best option that they are willing to agree to. As a younger physician, I made and I asked the patients to have treatment that I thought the book said was correct. But I can guarantee you, as I've gotten older, my approach has changed. I like to provide information, and I like my patients to have a combined decision-making process. That's very, very important for me. What I also want to reiterate is, I think in Trinidad, and I stand to be corrected, I think the dependence on a physician is a bit too much. I think as a human, as a male, as a female, you need to take responsibility for your care, exactly as is being described. Visit your GP, do mammograms, do pap smears, do prostate exams. This is not something that hasn't been said. This is not something that hasn't been advocated for. It's continuously repeated. but for one reason or the other, it's not always taken up. So from our point of view, that is something that we really, really want to get out there.
Doctor, okay, first of all, though, as you mentioned prostate exam, Natasha looked at me and laughed. Now, I had a very terrible experience with a prostate exam, and this doctor used a probe. Now, you know the hammerhead looking type of probe. Doc, the only thing I do is suck my finger when that man finished while he was doing it. It was painful, it was horrible, and I just didn't want to experience. Is there a better way, an easier way to do a prostate exam?
There's only one way. It has to.
It's only one way. Doc, please help us here now, because that probe, like every time I close my eyes, I just see it. It was that painful.
That was that nice experience.
Doc, help.
So what I want to react, any examination whereby a foreign object is placed into your body is never going to be comfortable. What I can say though is for men who are really resistant to that process of a digital rectal exam, which is a finger examination of the prostate, there should be no probe placement. I'm not too sure what exactly happened in your unique situation.
You see,
you were violated.
I felt like that, Doc. I felt violated, and then I felt, and he was looking on a screen while he was doing it, and he moved it left, right, up, down.
In that instance, though, God, did you raise an objection while he was? Did the doctor explain to you why he was using this implement? And
he was very quiet. The man moved like a real gangster. All he tell me is turn around and lie in a fetus position, and in the fetal position.
Yeah.
And he just squeeze something on top of it, and then he started to push. And I was holding on to the wall. My toes were crumpled. I was in pain. Wow. I saw that doctor in the gym 2 weeks after that, and I swear
this is not the kind of relationship that we expect. We expect a little more conversation and dialogue between the doctor and the patient about what is about to happen.
You want me to volunteer for our next prostate exam
because
after
he
that?
needs to explain. He should have explained to you why he was doing what he was doing.
Why was he probing you?
Absolutely, but what I just want to reiterate is that is not a standard screening prostate exam. A standard screening prostate exam involves the placement of a finger, not an ultrasound, which is what you're describing.
Yes,
so
that's exactly what he did.
I'm going to assume that the physician had a reason for doing an ultrasound probe, but I can reassure the listening public that the correct way, I'm still, correct way is a digital rectal exam, which is a finger as well as a blood test to measure your PSA.
Yes.
Whether or not you need an ultrasound scan is if there's a worrying factor typically, and it's being addressed for the possibility of further evaluation or a biopsy. And Natasha, I agree with you wholeheartedly. At any point in time when I'm doing an examination, whether it's a vaginal examination or a back passage examination, I explain to the patient at length what the process will involve, how long the process will take, how can I make it as comfortable for you as possible, because you're right. If I turned into this station now and heard God describing this process, then I would never see a doctor for my prostate.
Correct.
And Doc, may I say this? That is one of the problems we have in Trinidad and Tobago. The lack of bedside manner from doctors and nurses in Trinidad in some instances.
Yep.
And I want to tell you what I've experienced. In the public hospital, there's very few, it is absent in many ways. There are good doctors and nurses, but that you see that nurse or that doctor in a private hospital, a very different person, very different demeanor. And that is they have a better bedside manner, you know. And I think that it is important, Garth. In that situation, that's an intrusion into the body, and the doctor should have spoken you through it and relaxed you as well in the conversation and so on. That way, you wouldn't even know when it started and when it finished.
Correct.
and then you would have understood why he's doing it,
Yeah.
and therefore you'd be more comfortable just waiting on the outcome.
And doctor, here it started. He told me to go by the lady told me to go by the drugstore and buy a suppository. And this a kind of look like a 7.62 round ammunition.
Yep.
Something like, and I had to insert that.
Correct.
At least an hour before I went to him. No, is that the normal procedure?
No.
Absolutely not.
Oh, Jesus.
What?
That's overnight.
The way you screen for prostate cancer, like I said, and I'll explain it in detail.
Yes, please.
The accepted way and the approach is a digital rectal examination. What it involves is the doctor obviously getting consent, explaining a procedure, communicating well with their patients. It involves the patient in the exact position that you described, and the patient and the doctor will pass a finger up the back passage and palpate the prostate to make sure that it's not bulky, make sure it doesn't have nodules. A lot of literature is coming out now with regards to using PSA, which is a blood test alone. Yes, there's some evidence of using it alone, but I still very strongly advocate for a digital rectal
I agree with that.
Yes.
Of a probe, an ultrasound probe, taking suppositories is not the common way of screening for prostate cancer.
Oh, what trouble is this? I should have reported this man. But Darian, I work funny for days. You know.
No,
You laughing?
No, I understand. And God, I want to just make this point. And Doc, bear me out. And while that experience was not good, and I hear you by any measure, let it not be a deterrent for you, God, or men, people listening, from going to do their prostate checks. Listen, the failure to do that will cost you your life. And you don't it doesn't have to. Don't play macho. Don't make excuses. Go and do your prostate assessment. God, and I'm telling you, that was a bad experience.
Terrible.
It was poor.
Yeah.
But don't let, I'm going to tell you, I can't even start to imagine how you felt. But I'm saying, don't let it be a deterrent.
Gary Gardner, that Adam Gardner, that's not funny. You laughing? I wasn't laughing until I walked funny for days, and this suppository was burning. You know, it burned for days. And that doctor, I feeling even more violated now.
Not nice.
No, I know doc. I knew what it was like. Now, when I walk into that doctor office, how it was like to get raped. I felt that I was raped that day. But thank you for clearing this up, Darian. Your help now, because it turned me off of doing an next prostate exam, because I tell myself, if that is how it has to be done, I'm not going back.
No. I mean, who want to experience that, guy?
Nobody.
No.
I thought a hammerhead, Darian.
No.
The thing shaped like a hammer, when I watch it before you push it up.
No. That's traumatic.
What's so important about everything in Trinidad and in general in your medical care? I think, there's a lot of Dr. Googles, there's a lot of misinformation, inappropriate information, but information is key. When I see patients for the first time with a diagnosis of whatever, what I try to do is I try to offer approved regulatory sites that can provide information so that they can stay informed. I have zero issues with patients doing their due diligence. I love that. That means I can actually engage at an even deeper level.
Right.
From my point, I direct them to the sites that I may use for patient information, sites that I can use for guidelines of how we can treat. And you're absolutely right. When I was growing up, the way in which a doctor would have a conversation and the way in which my patients describe consultations with myself is like, doc, we were expecting to come in here and be told what to do. And I was like, if you've gone to any office and somebody tells you what to do, that is not medicine. That is dictatorship, and that is not how medicine is performed. So, in general, with everything, communication. What I can tell you guys is that how things are improving. We have some amazing groups of doctors around this country. Communication and bedside manners are being improved on. With my team in San Fernando General, we're doing some work via Zoom. I mean, while COVID-19 was a crazy debilitating for the entire world. It's taught us that we can do a lot, not in person. And that is what we are utilizing. Some other important points that you brought up, and I want the listening public to be aware of, is that the majority of us who are specialists have trained abroad and we've maintained contacts with a lot of institutions all over the world. I don't think communication has ever been as good as it has within the last 2 years because of COVID. And as a result of that, we are not the society, or we're not the group of doctors now that believe that we will guess and make decisions that are not appropriate. I always tell my patients, we have a lot of Trinidadians who are running programs all over the world. There's some very advanced oncologists that are at the University of Miami. There's the head of the Pancreatic Biliary Society in the world, and they're all trainees, and they are very, very, very willing to help.
Actually, Doc, at Mayo, when I went to Mayo 2 weeks ago, they have 2 trainees there heading departments in the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. Right. Really fantastic, and you're so correct. But Doc, I agree with you that it is important that the patient do their own due diligence and get information, so that when they come to you, you have a particular level of conversation. I don't want people to get carried away with that, because I see how they behave. After a while, they believe that they're the doctor. The doctor, you have information there, you're reading, but the doctor has gone through particular trainings and has experience that you will never have by reading that. Don't get carried away and start diagnosing yourself. And neither don't go with your doctor, and start to raise conversation about what you read.
Yes.
That you know nothing about.
Yes.
Stay in tune with your doctor, stay in your lane. He is still the trained professional.
Correct.
Be guided.
I agree wholeheartedly, but what I can tell you is that I would say 50% of my consultations, my patients present with the assumption that what they have read is correct, with the assumption that they know more than probably what I know. And it's the reality, and it's not about telling patients, this is my expertise. It's about appropriate communication and guiding that patient towards understanding that, yes, I understand what you've read, I acknowledge what you have read. This is what the data says. This is what the information. It's about maneuvering conversations and allowing that patient to be respected for having that right to research, but also ensuring that I give them and I know what I'm doing is what the guidelines, what my training has taught me. It's maneuvering and it's communication. That's the key ingredient to ensuring that people are happy, respected, and will continue to take treatment like you've suggested.
I want to change focus a little bit. I want you to talk to us a little bit about the prevention aspect and the kind of impacts that our lifestyles and practices is causing us to be sick. There are many factors that lead to a diagnosis of cancer, and prostate cancer is prevalent in Trinidad and Tobago. So what are the things that you as a physician would say in terms of prevention and, of course, the screening aspect of it, which we spoke a little bit about earlier, how difficult that can be. But in terms of the prevention and the factors that may lead to developing prostate cancer in particular.
Absolutely. So generally speaking, healthy lifestyle is important. And, some of the issues that were touched on is stress. Stress is actually quite an interesting phenomenon, and I think as we become more and more modernized, the stress levels of young professionals are at an all-time high. It's that way because you are told that you need to function at a level, at your job, in your life, in your family, and everything. It's been very well documented that stress can increase gastric acid secretions, it can increase reflux, and that as a result of gastric cancers. So long ago, for instance, gastric cancer, esophageal cancer, was caused by smoking and alcohol. Currently, we're having a paradigm switch, whereby patients who are obese, who have reflux, and those are lifestyle diseases, and they are actually number one cause. You talk about alcohol consumption. Alcohol consumption is associated with increased possibility of breast cancer. Talk about smoking. It's obviously an increased risk for every single cancer that you can think of. There is no cancer that has not been affected by smoking. When you talk about prostate cancer, it's a little bit different. Prostate cancer has a lot to do with age. The highest risk factor for prostate cancer is as you get older. So the guidelines have suggested that men at the age of 45 without risk factors should begin screening. Screening involves visiting your GP, having an examination of the back passage without a probe, no probe needed, and followed by a PSA test. I'll just talk a little about everything. For young women who are sexually active, pap smears are very important once you are sexually active. And for women with mammograms, these facilities are all offered through the different regional health authorities, through the primary healthcare centers, which is your health centers. Now, for prostate cancer, again, the information on prostate cancer is quite interesting, and early detection is key to cure. I think patients need to understand that cancer is no longer what it was believed to be. Once we get ahead of the game, once we detect early, the cure rates are much higher. The cost to treat you is much less, and your quality of life is always better. So from a general standpoint, I advocate very strongly for controlled alcohol intake, absolutely zero smoking. I advocate for healthy lifestyle, which means a very balanced diet, exercise daily once is possible, avoid carcinogenic foods. So people ask, doc, what is that? People tell us everything is an issue. Well, there's a lot of documentation. For instance, red meat. There's a high predisposition for colorectal cancer and red meat. There's no question about this. This is factual. So I tell my patients to avoid red meat as much as is possible. In terms of our culture, culturally, I grew up with curry. I grew up with a lot of fried foods. I tell patients now it's not about stopping eating the food. It's about just a different way of preparing. I talk about air frying stuff. I talk about a lot more vegetables in your diet. I talk about cutting out the soft drink. I just read a recent paper that is showing that how even though as we get more and more developed, we're finding more and more cancers, disease is still highly related to stress, diet, and exactly like what's being described. And it's about a holistic approach. It's about taking responsibility. If you found out post-pandemic, hey, I put on a few pounds, it's time to do something about it. We all talk, identify the problems, and we don't always deal with it. And that's the most important thing.
Doc, in 2012, I'm sure you're familiar with it. CARICOM did an audit of the medical health of the region, and they was conclusive in that lifestyle diseases and obesity is causing many challenges with health, and of course the economics of it as well. And I don't know what has happened, but I know that there was a discussion generally for the region, for CARICOM, that there's a deliberate effort via the state to help to change the lifestyles and food in particular. So like in Trinidad, that's why, and in some schools they don't sell soft drinks and sweetened juices, and the school feeding program in Trinidad has been streamlined in a particular way. Yeah. But if when you're in school you get that for those who have access to it, but at home parents have no time to prepare meals, or they choose not to, and they feel that pizza and chicken and chips and fast foods, the way to keep the children happy, and they always eating out of a box. I'm not sure that they understand that they're investing heavily in lifestyle diseases for their children. Added to which, children are no longer running about the yard and playing catch and so on. They're on their laptops and on their machines at home and in the car and so on. And therefore, it is creating what I consider to be a tsunami in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, having said that, I want to add this to it, and I want to hear your views. In Trinidad and Tobago, and if people didn't appreciate it before, I hope they appreciate it now. The network of health centers throughout Trinidad and Tobago was an important pillar in our fight against COVID. Now, after lunch in most, if not all, health centers is empty. Very few people attending. I would like to see the state, the Ministry of Health, utilize those facilities in our community, and even if it has to go till 7 in the night and change the structure a bit, so that people could go and do their checks. Parents could take their children. We used to have situations where, when I was going primary school,
Nurses would visit the school.
Nurses would visit the school, and like I went to school on George Street. We would be taken to the health center on George Street for checks and so on, eyes and so on and so on. So very early there can be interventions, and we utilize that infrastructure that is there. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
But before you jump in, I just wanted to put in a little plug for the diet side, the diet and nutrition, as I think this is so fundamental to our physical health and our mental health as well. I recently transitioning from vegetarian to vegan, and I think that is one of the pillars I think that we are missing from this whole conversation about diet, and is the importance of leaving the meat and the fish out of your diet, because we have been, everything is so commercialized in this modern world that we believe what is being marketed to us as good food or as nutritious food. So we really have to consider what we are consuming and how that is impacting on our health. But go ahead, doctor, about the a very good point about the health centers and increasing the access that people have to healthcare through those facilities.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a very valid point. I mean, I can't really speak for the other regions. I'm currently with Southwest Regional Health Authority, and my understanding is some of the bigger health centers offer extended hours. What that simply means is there is a doctor present from I think until 7 to 8 p.m. and I stand to be corrected. And this is one of the initiatives that the regions have taken to do exactly as I said. Now, the other thing about it is that how, so I would tell you just from my experience as well that, in SWRHA, what we're doing is we actually have time assigned slots for reviews. So for instance, when you book a clinic, even in the health centers, the clinics actually have a revolving time. But with all Trinidadians, they show up at 6 a.m. Regardless if their time is 2 p.m. So what a lot of the health centers have done, it's that falls, patients show up very early, but the health center service is an 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. service. There's always a physician on hand with nursing staff to address any concerns. The bigger centers, especially in SWRHA, like Princess Town District Health Facility, Siparia District Health Facility, these all offer 24-hour assistance. And yes, we are pushing more. I know the Ministry of Health just had a recent initiative with regards to diet, exercise, and getting the information out there. I do believe post-pandemic we are going to see a boom of child obesity if we haven't started seeing it already as per data collection. And you're right, when I grew up as well, I could never sit in the house. I was always outside running, doing something. But now my niece, for instance, they've been forced into using an iPad because of the many safety issues as post-pandemic and social interactions, even that going on with your friends to do something that's been lost as well. So like you said, I think the ministry is making the necessary adjustments to offer longer hours of care. I think they are really trying with the many limitations. I mean, even right now with COVID-19, that's still an area of concern. It's an area of maneuvering staff. It's an area of adjusting opening hours. But I agree wholeheartedly, greater presence in the district, in the community centers, greater information. So a part of my team, we always offer sessions where my doctors or nurses go out into the further communities, like Mayaro or Claro, to just let patients know, hey, this exists. This is not a cost. We don't want you to see anybody. This is what we offer through the Ministry of Health, free of charge, to tell you that, hey, you are okay. I've done some through SAPA, through a number of organizations where they do screening. It's something that is going to be ramped up as we get out of COVID-19 because we have more time. It's safer now for us to continue.
Doc, so if you're just joining us, folks, you're listening to Dependency, and we have on video call Dr. Visham Bhagaloo, And also, we have in studio with us Darian Marcelle. We are speaking about cancers in men this morning. Doc, Hinkson, just go to video C first and then go to B. Doctor, we want you to help out with this because we want to do too is continue to share, keeping with our mandate information on substance abuse and its related ills. So,
and he did mention alcohol as a major risk factor for health issues.
So, and smoking. So, if you could add to this, there's a trend now, and it's growing, alcohol use among young people. A lot of them using alcohol way below the age of 25. Some of their parents encouraging them to drink. And I tell parents, worms don't drink. And you're giving your child alcohol for the worms, all you're doing is preparing them for years of abuse. So, Hinkson, go to video C and watch this. What was happening to a couple of people? They will carry you to a party, and then when you pass out, there was a video of a young lady sitting on a cooler defecating on herself and vomiting. You notice that? Look at this here, folks. This is what happens when you go with friends. As I say, friends will carry you, but they don't bring you. Look at these two men sleeping in hot sun after a fit.
Passed out, Can't move.
Look. And, of course, when anger meets angostura, this is what happens to as well. Yep. Right? And notice every fit, every line by a bar, normally turns into a big brawl. Why? Because once that alcohol gets into your system, you lose all reasoning, all sense of reasoning. It's just fight to the end. And this is what we see on our screen here right now. Big fight, after a party. Police in between that. Is your police get COVID, Darren? See, because they had to be interacting with these idiots.
Yeah.
Gary, put it up on the screen on the top there, so that we can see it better. Right? But this is what happens.
This is the end result of alcohol consumption.
Yeah, and try as we may to get our local distiller here to understand that they're selling a drug, regardless to how nice you pretty it up and advertise it. It is a drug, and we have to concentrate on this going forward in a more major way. All right, so Hinkson, go to video B now. And then the doctor will help us explain this before we wrap up with him. And if you're just joining us, folks, you're listening to Dependency, and we're having a very important conversation with you and Dr. Visham Bhagaloo here this morning with Darian Marcelle in studio. Video.
Alcohol.
Right. That's it.
Parents, please pay attention to this.
In this video, I will go through some of the ways in which alcohol can affect the body. Firstly, alcohol slows down the signals in the nerves and brain. It slows down reaction time. Therefore, it takes longer to react. This is why it's very dangerous to drive when you have consumed alcohol. Alcohol can result in impaired memory, slurred speech, difficulty walking, poor coordination, visual problems, headaches, poor concentration, vomiting. Alcohol also results in poor judgment. Therefore, people will usually make poor decisions if they have consumed alcohol. Alcohol can affect a person's emotion. This usually causes them to lose control of their emotions. It lowers inhibitors, increases heart rates, and increases hunger. Increased heart rate and blood flow to the skin causes the individual to appear red. Large consumptions of alcohol can lead to unconsciousness. Long-term use of alcohol weakens the immune system, therefore making the person more vulnerable to serious infections. Over time, alcohol consumption can lead to addiction, and this can affect numerous organs in the body. Excessive drinking can cause liver damage. The liver is involved in filtering the blood and removing alcohol using enzymes. However, the products of this reaction are toxic and can cause damage over time. Alcohol can irritate the stomach lining, which can result in stomach ulcers. Other problems include shrinking brain cells, worsened memory problems, psychiatric problems, vitamin deficiency, and even cancer. Alcohol consumption can also affect fertility in both males and females. Alcohol in pregnancy is also very dangerous, as it can increase the risk of a miscarriage, premature birth, low birth weight, or fetal alcohol syndrome. Furthermore, alcohol has many social implications. For example, it can cause violence and can result in the breakdown of many relationships. However, when an individual decides to stop drinking alcohol, these risks reduce. There are many people that can help and many resources available if you would like support.
Doctor, can you
What do you
add
think
to that
about-
for our listening audience, please? And listening and viewing audience.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think the use of alcohol has increased. I think it has a lot to do with the, like I described it, the Americanization of our society. I think there's been a loss of that nuclear family and that extended family support that has existed for a very long time in Trinidad. So for instance, when I grew up with my grandparents, and for lack of a better word, you get a cut, something, if you do this or the other. I think alcohol is not a simple issue to fix. I think it's a society issue. I think it's a family issue. It's a religious issue. We can have many options. We can try many things, but you need to actually get that thought process from an early age. You need to have kids understand. A starting point can be a little bit more information in the primary school level. Get the churches to help with ensuring that Sunday schools, it's about little things like that. There's no doubt in my mind that lots of cons associated with alcohol use. There's lots of problems associated with alcohol use. You listed a few of them. As a child growing up, as a teenager, I can tell you peer pressure is a big part of it.
Yes, for real.
And that's something easy to get rid of. Wanting to be with that group or be part of that group can lead a lot of kids to do many different things. Like we talk about gun violence in Trinidad, like we talk about anything. It's a breakdown of what used to be. And yes, like my profs used to tell me, it's great to identify an issue, but what's more important is about putting steps in place to correct the issue.
Let's take a couple calls, Doc. Darian, we can take some calls for you and Doctor. 6223937 if you have a quick question for Darian or the Doctor.
Well, actually, I just want to add to what the Doctor is saying. And while we want the church and the system, parents can't give up their responsibility.
Yeah.
You, as a parent, have children, and you have to take the necessary steps. Communicate with your children. Don't bury your head in the sand. And you can't. I have been taking my son to different events when he has to go, and the first one on him now. And I go to events and I see children coming, and the parents know they're wrong. How is that possible?
Yeah.
And some of them consume alcohol and other things. Sometimes they don't even know. They have not experienced it. They can't cope, and they end up in a mess.
Yeah.
And let me just add, Doc, probably you all could discuss this another time, the issue of mental illness.
Yes.
So, and there are different levels of it. So sometimes they turn to alcohol or other things as a coping mechanism.
Correct.
And their parents not aware or prepared to treat with it and assess it. Again, mental illness now is not symptoms and you're in a cell and you're going mad all over the place. It's no longer that. and these things are treatable, they're diagnosable, and therefore we need to pay attention. If you're not paying attention and supervising your children, and supervising don't mean with a whip on a belt, having conversation, how was school, knowing who their friends are, who their teacher is when they go into life, I want to know who the parents are, all those kind of things. You're giving up your responsibility. And parents have to take responsibility. They can't dodge it. Okay. That is not the teacher's job. It's not the police job. It's your job first.
622-3937. 622-3937. Gary, can we take our first call, please? 622-3937. And we are speaking with Dr. Visham Bhagaloo. And Dr. A lot of people have been asking to contact you, you know. So you will leave some information how people can find you before you go, right? Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning to each and everyone. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, are you hearing me clearly?
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay, right. Good morning to each and everyone. Good morning to you.
Pardon?
I'm saying good morning to the doctor.
Morning, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, right. Darian Marcelle.
What on, girl? What happened, Maria?
Hi, Darian. I am listening to the program. And you know, actually, I lied down here and I just said, you know, recently that they had told me I had discovered a stage 4 cancer. You hear me?
And now hearing you a little better.
Right. They had told me, you know, they discovered that I had stage 4 cancer. And I did surgery and thing too. I was in St. James and I did surgery. And I want to say thank God every day, you know. I'm still attend the clinic. I no longer take a lot of chemo. And my last test they took for me, they said that they said no evidence, you know, they're not seeing absolutely nothing. So I still attend the clinic. I have no more chemo to take, you know, so I still attend the clinic, you know, to make sure that everything is all right with me. So Darian, after listening to you, without the above the God, and you understand, and these doctors on them, honestly, Dr. Quinlan, honestly, they really held on to me, you know. Dr. Guerra and all of them down there in St. James, they really, really, you know, it was nice, you know, that I'm feeling much better, I have no pain. But no, I just had to go and continue taking my checkup. So, Darian, I am there with you also, too, okay?
Praise God, darling.
All right,
Praise
darling.
God.
Nice to hear that. Stay positive, stay strong.
Yes. Okay. Bye-bye. 622-3937. Good morning.
Good morning to the gentleman and the lady.
Morning.
Wonderful program. Morning. As a layman, with my 2 cents, I think to prevent misdiagnosis, the doctor should listen to the patient with what he is experiencing. Because, as Darren said, sometimes the doctor doesn't know the patient, and the patient is misdiagnosed. Time passes until he finds out what's the problem. Another thing, too, is that medicine has become too commercialized. I went by doctor to do a stress test. And before the test was done, he told me 3,000. But this will charge you 2,500. Imagine that. Without even checking me out, he charged me 3,000. He said, yeah, for 2,500. Wonderful program. Keep up the good works. And
very much.
So we negotiating. You get a discount on
622-3937.
now.
You like him? You like him? As you, but you don't know him.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Very, very interesting program. God bless you, Mr. Marcel.
He has.
I know. Sorry?
He has.
Indeed.
Amen. I know the program is concentrated on cancer, but I'm interested in knowing how you recovered with respect to your nerve damage. What did you do? Which doctors did you go to? And so on. If you could go into a little more detail with respect to that for us, the listening public, who's so interested in this multifaceted approach that you had to employ. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Right at down there. Yes, right at.
Sure, we'll answer it.
We'll answer it. Hello. Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Morning.
Good morning, Dad, Natasha, Darian, and the doctor. You all hearing me?
Yes.
Right, nice. Excellent program as per usual. And I want to tell Darian, you are so correct. I traveled to the United States and stayed by some trainees. And I'm saying, boy, everybody coming up here for the doctors here, and they must be better than Trinidad. They say, no way. They say, we cry down our health system in Trinidad and Tobago, but we are ranking high over there with the U.S. They say we get good service and for free. And to go to the health centers and the hospitals in the U.S., you have to have insurance, you have to have all kind of things, and we take things for granted. So I wanted to tell Darian that what you're saying is correct. Our health system here, we might have a few shortcomings, but we get excellent health care. And Darian, and you are telling, and I also tell family, our doctors are excellent, but they're not God.
Thank you, Kola.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
The US and no health centers, eh?
Correct.
They have no health centers. Trinidad and Tobago, one of the few places in the world have only none.
Yes, from the time you step in the hospital, they're charging you.
And by the way, I don't know anywhere in the US where you could go and they get free medicine. You have to show your insurances.
Correct.
First and foremost.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'd like to raise an issue with Dr. Bhagaloo. A very interesting conversation you all are having this morning. He talked about the need, reducing risk factors and so on to prevent the cancer, as well as he talked about having a balanced diet and so on. But I think it is well established that as we get older, the extraction of nutrients from the food we eat becomes less efficient, so that as we grow older, the nutrients you would normally get become in short supply because we're not extracting it as well. And I have read where, for example, the prostate cancer issue, it is because primarily as a result of a deficiency in zinc. And there are several papers published in the peer-reviewed literature indicating that zinc is a necessary nutrient that tends to be deficient as we get older, and that this accounts for the fact that as you get older, prostate cancer in men becomes so prevalent.
Thank you very much, sir. Darren, you wanted to
cutting you off.
Yes, sorry for that, but let's take one more, and then Darren will answer the question, and we'll let them wrap up because we're coming close to 12 for the major news. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Excellent. And you see that last contribution there informing us about zinc?
Yes.
Oh, that is so vital. And we use a lot of raw onions, lots of raw onions for that zinc. But I'm going to say something. That doctor that did that examination to you, he was a sick person getting his jollies.
I want to believe
that
so,
is a serious issue. And we have to impound more what diet is doing to life and living. The foods that we eat. Yep. And you see, when you're talking about alcohol and all these little words that they punctuate it with moderation and not in excess and all these kind of things, those things are lies. You're not supposed to consume these things. Don't come and tell me, should I take a little bit of arsenic every day? So if something is bad for me, I must take a little bit, but it's okay. So diet is vital.
Thank you very much, Kola.
Gentlemen.
Thank you. Then morning to Dr. Pottinger and morning to those folks.
Hey, Doc Wapman.
Yes. So when we discuss cancer in women, of course, he will be here with us.
He's very, very passionate about it.
Yeah, I'm one of the best too. So let's Darren, nerve damage. How did you deal with it?
What I did is that I threw away all my medication. Right? I bought, it's expensive, the one that was recommended for me. One of the consequences of the diagnosis was neuromyelinating neuropathy, and that is the damaging of the coating of the nerve, right? And it is extremely painful, and it could be so painful it could be crippling. But I have to tell you that I was at the Mayo and I bought about $500 worth of the tablets they recommended. But when I went back to my room, I was watching television, and the ad came up about this medication. And the ad that came up, information, well, it was frightening, the different possibilities. Now, all medication have side effects. There's no question about it, right? At the time I took a decision, I not taking that. I threw it away. And the following year, when my doctor discovered that I wasn't taking it, she said, "You serious?" I said, "Yes. I'll take the pain. I prefer to take the pain than
Really?
the possibilities of those things, right?"
The side effects were so bad, or
Yeah, the combinations as well.
right? Okay.
But that was a personal choice, and it was the detriment to that was pain. I prefer to take the pain. My excuse to the doctor is I'm better able to measure how it's improving over time. I've never taken that tablet again. I don't know, every time the science is improving, right? So that they're doing better and better. But I never took any medication. My hands were bad, they improved a lot. My feet, it was from my knees go down.
Yes.
And now it's just in my ankle go down. And I'm grateful to be alive. I'll take the pain. I'm alive and well.
Dr. Bhagaloo, closing remarks.
Quickly. Sorry, because we are 12 o'clock.
Sure.
Thank you very much for having me on your program. Like you said, it's a holistic approach, diet, intake of drugs. It all needs to be properly looked into. There are many mechanisms available in the public system that can help with screening and prevention of cancers. Thanks again for having me.
Doctor, where can, if folks want to get in touch with you, because a couple of people have asked where they can get in touch with you?
I'm assigned to San Fernando General Hospital.
Yes.
They just need a referral to my clinic.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. So it's Dr. Visham Bhagaloo you can ask for at San Fernando General Hospital. Folks,
Oncology department.
Oncology department.
Don't
Right,
get
Doc?
emergency and ask it.
Right. Folks, this was wonderful. Thank you very much for spending your time with us this morning. Darian, thank you so much, my
pleasure.
brother.
Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to
You open that door here, and we'll continue this motion
man, I think you
going
should,
forward. Yeah. So morning to you folks out there in Massachusetts who joined us, in Brooklyn, Allison, and all of you, and Dependency faithful followers. Thank you so much. Natasha, thanks again. Gary, thank you. Shortman, thank you.
Natasha, you lost?
Up next, no, but the game now start.
Oh.
Up next, major news at 12 with
This
Sterling
Sterling
Henderson.
Henderson,
Good
yes.
afternoon.
Take care.
Broadcasting from Port of Spain, Trinidad, this is the most influential name in radio.